I just missed 108 calls from the female CEO. The childhood friend who has suffered from autism thought I had abandoned her again. So she locked herself in the study. She took out a blade and began to harm herself. When I received the news and rushed back to Shaw's villa, I saw a group of people standing in the hall. I looked at the butler and asked anxiously, "The company?" The butler sighed. "The young lady has locked herself in the study. After dinner was ready, I called several times. There was not a single response." After hearing the butler's words, I became even more worried. I went to find someone to break down the door. The butler was about to turn around to instruct someone, but I stopped him. Breaking down the door might hurt Wan Ning. "There should be a spare key in the house, right?" The butler quickly replied. "Yes, there is. I'll go get it right now." The butler quickly brought the spare key to the study and handed it to me. I took the key and hurried upstairs. When I reached the study door, I first knocked on the door and asked from inside, "Wan Ning, is anyone there?" But all that greeted her was silence. No one inside responded, nor did they open the door. At this moment, the blade in Sha Wanning's hand had already pierced her chest. It was as if she heard me calling her. The next second, she shook her head, denying the thought. How could that be? Lu Yichen has left. He will never come looking for her again. Just as Sha Wanning was gripping the blade, ready to go deeper, the study door suddenly creaked open. It was me who unlocked it with the spare key. The light from the corridor outside flooded into the study, and I saw the room in disarray. My gaze anxiously searched for Sha Wanning's figure. The moment I saw Sha Wanning, my pupils constricted and my heart nearly stopped. "Wanning, don't." Outside the door, Sha Wanning's best friend Lin Mu Yao and Wen Chao also saw it. They didn't dare to act recklessly. At this moment, it's up to me to resolve it. Sha Wanning looked up and cast a spell towards the door. She blinked her lifeless beautiful eyes. She thought it was just an illusion of her own. She forced a smile on her pale face. She saw the fake Lu Yichen again. I saw the blade in Sha Wanning's hand positioned over her heart. Blood had already seeped through her white dress. I was afraid of startling her if I rushed. I didn't dare to approach her all at once. I could only move forward slowly. I stopped 2 meters away from her. "Wanning, look at me. I am here. Can you put the blade down?" Sha Wanning stared at me in disbelief. She was afraid that I would disappear in the next second. She said childishly, "Not good. Lu Yichen doesn't want me anymore." Seeing Sha Wanning like this made my heart ache. "Wanning, I didn't stop wanting you. Look, I'm standing here, aren't I?" I could see a slight change in Sha Wanning's expression. I continued to speak. "I miss you so much. Can you give me a hug?" Sha Wanning stared intently at me. She was struggling inside. She was so scared, afraid that what she saw in front of her was all a lie. After confirming that this wasn't a dream, Sha Wanning looked down at the blade in her hand. She pulled it out and tossed it aside. I watched as Sha Wanning finally discarded the blade. I quickly stepped forward and embraced her tightly. Sha Wanning raised her hand as if to hug me, but upon seeing the bloodstains on her hands, she stopped her next move. She needed to clean herself up before she could hug me. "My hands are dirty. How about I go wash my hands first?" I still held Sha Wanning tightly, not letting go. "It's okay. It's not dirty. Not dirty at all. I dare not let go. I'm afraid that if I let go, Sha Wanning will do something foolish again." Maybe she sensed my presence right beside her. Sha Wanning gradually relaxed. The next second, she fainted as if she couldn't hold on anymore. I gently shook her as I held her. I called out in a panic, "Sha Wanning, wake up!" Lin Mu Yao and Wen Chao, who were guarding the door, rushed in as soon as they heard my voice. As a doctor, Lin Mu Yao opened the medical kit as per routine. She examined Sha Wanning's body step by step. I stood by the side, my eyes fixed on Sha Wanning lying on the bed. How strong is she? How long will it take for her to wake up? Is her injury very severe? Will it hurt a lot when she wakes up? Lin Mu Yao listened to my series of questions. I was a bit surprised by my concern for Sha Wanning. She always thought that between me and Sha Wanning, only Sha Wanning was deeply trapped and unable to extricate herself. Yet I avoided Sha Wanning at all costs. Today, it seems that is not the case. Lin Mu Yao looked at me and replied, "The wound on my hand is fine. The injury is quite deep. Let her sleep for now. She should wake up tomorrow, right?" I nodded as I looked at Sha Wanning's quiet sleeping face. Lin Mu Yao left me her phone number. "Call me anytime if you have any questions." After saying that, she went out with Wen Chao and locked the door. I tucked in the quilt for Sha Wanning. I held her uninjured hand and leaned on the side of the bed. I quietly watched her. The woman had her eyes tightly closed. Her pale lips showed no trace of color. Sha Wanning was born with very fair skin. At this moment, she looked as white as a porcelain doll. I held her hand and gently said, "Please wake up soon and talk to me, okay? Wasn't it fine during the day? How did it turn into this now?" Sha Wanning was still sound asleep. She did not respond to me. I recalled that in my past life, Sha Wanning was like this too. With her eyes tightly closed, she was by my side. No matter how I called her, she didn't react. My heart felt as if it were being cut by a knife. Unknowingly, I fell asleep by the bed. In the middle of the night, I groggily heard someone calling my name. My mind instantly became clear. I got up to check on Sha Wanning's condition. I saw her drenched in sweat. Her face was also covered in an unusual flush, with her brows knitted. She kept mumbling, "Yichen, Yichen, don't go." She seemed very restless. I quickly comforted her. "I'm here with you," I said that while wiping the sweat off her. I checked Sha Wanning's forehead temperature. As expected, she had a fever. I took out the thermometer to check Sha Wanning's temperature. It showed 39.5 degrees. I picked up the medicine Lin Mu Yao had prescribed from the bedside. I pried open Sha Wanning's mouth and put the medicine inside. Then I grabbed the cup next to me to give Sha Wanning some water, to help her swallow the medicine. Unfortunately, this time Sha Wanning frowned. No matter what I said, she stubbornly kept her mouth shut. The medicine was still in her mouth, not swallowed. I couldn't get it in either. This really made me anxious. I first took a big gulp of water from the cup for myself. Pouting my lips, I cupped Sha Wanning's face. I fed her water mouth to mouth. My lips and Sha Wanning's. The plump lips pressed together. Sha Wanning, groggy from the fever. It felt like finding a spring of clear water. She bit my lips and sucked hard. Perhaps Sha Wanning was too forceful, causing me to get a small bite on my lip. Fortunately, Sha Wanning released me after a while. I could feel Sha Wanning swallowing. I let out a sigh of relief. She finally managed to take the medicine. Then she took another sip of water. I fed it to Sha Wanning just like before. I casually wiped the corner of my mouth. Wanning. Just tell me, were you doing it on purpose? Did you have to make me feed you like this? And you bit me. I touched my own lips. Sigh, being bitten is one thing. Poor me, my first kiss has just gone like that. I deliberately threatened Sha Wanning with a fierce tone. Wait until you wake up. Let's see how I settle the score with you. Tuck in the quilt for Sha Wanning. I went to get a basin of warm water to clean her body. The fever has gotten quite high. This woman has so many quirks. She will definitely have a restless sleep. Afraid to touch her and cause pain. Being extra careful the whole time. I just lay by the bed, keeping watch over Sha Wanning, occasionally checking her temperature. As the sky gradually brightened, I don't know how many times I've checked her temperature. Sha Wanning's temperature finally returned to normal. My tense nerves slowly relaxed as well. I felt my eyelids battling each other. I really couldn't hold on any longer. I fell asleep resting my head on Sha Wanning's hand. Sha Wanning woke up. She felt something pressing down on her hand. She looked over. She saw me sleeping soundly beside her. Her little mouth smacked a couple of times. It seemed like she was dreaming of something delicious. Sha Wanning found me so cute like this. She slightly curled the corner of her mouth. Looking at me sleeping like this must be uncomfortable. She gently pulled her hand out. She carefully dragged me onto the bed. I stayed up all night. I was truly too tired and sleepy. I didn't feel at all like I had fallen asleep on the bed. There were no signs of waking up at all. Sha Wanning also lay back down on the bed. She turned to her side, looking at me sleeping with her eyes closed. She gently stroked my cheek. Her voice was full of concern. It's all my fault. Making Yichin work so hard. She noticed that my lip was cracked and had already scabbed over. Sha Wanning gently touched it. How did your lip get hurt? Did Yichin bite it himself? I felt a strong gaze fixed on me. Slowly, I opened my eyes. I saw Sha Wanning looking at me. After a moment of making eye contact, I came to my senses. I quickly scrambled up to sit on the bed. I looked at Sha Wanning excitedly. Wanning. You're awake. How long have you been awake? Why didn't you call me? Sha Wanning smiled faintly. I've just been awake for a while. I asked, somewhat puzzled. How did I end up in bed? Sha Wanning blinked cutely. I just dragged you up here. I scratched my head awkwardly. I was sleeping too deeply. I had no idea at all. You said you dragged me to bed. Sha Wanning nodded honestly. Brother Yichin. I frowned and said, you still have wounds. How can you use your hand? Saying this, I began to pull at Sha Wanning's clothes. I need to check if Sha Wanning's wound has been torn. What if the wound starts bleeding again? Sha Wanning held onto my sleeve. She stopped me from pulling at her clothes. It's okay. I have a company. I won't feel at ease unless I see it with my own eyes. I need to take a look, alright? Seeing my determined expression, Sha Wanning could only lift her clothes to show me herself. I leaned in closely to carefully examine Sha Wanning's wound. I saw that there was no new blood seeping out. Only then did I feel relieved and let out a sigh. Because I was too close. Sha Wanning felt my breath on her. The tips of her ears turned slightly red. She cleared her throat awkwardly. She pulled her clothes down. Is this good now? I smiled and said, it's good that everything is fine. Wanning. You must be hungry, right? Wait a minute, okay? I'll go downstairs to find something to eat and come back up. Sha Wanning didn't want me to leave her sight. I don't want to waste a single second. She holds me back, not letting me leave. I smile helplessly and say, be good now. I'll be right back. Sha Wanning is completely won over by my coaxing. She nods slightly. Then she releases her grip. I had just reached the door and was about to open it. Suddenly, I heard a knock on the door. I opened the door and saw it was Lin Mu Yao and Wen Chao. They came to ask how Sha Wanning was doing. I stepped aside to let them in. She is already awake. I'll go downstairs to get her something to eat. Lin Mu Yao finished changing Sha Wanning's dressing. Then she anxiously reminded her. Don't let the wound get wet. Don't exert yourself. Sha Wanning nodded and said thank you. So she didn't say much more. Lin Mu Yao was also used to it. Seeing that Sha Wanning was fine, she smiled and said, then I'll take my leave. I happened to be carrying porridge as I reached the room's door. I saw Lin Mu Yao getting ready to leave. She nodded to greet me. Wen Chao noticed that Lin Mu Yao had left. She quickly said she couldn't be a third wheel anymore. Wanning, take a good rest. I'll be leaving too. After saying that, she rushed out of the room. I curiously watched Wen Chao running away quickly. As I walked to Sha Wanning's bedside, I asked her in confusion, why is your assistant running so fast? Sha Wanning held back a laugh and answered me seriously. She's busy going to work. I walked in holding the porridge and sat down on the chair. I scooped a spoonful and blew on it. Then I fed it to Sha Wan Ning. Ah, open your mouth. Sha Wan Ning felt a bit shy about me taking care of her this way. She reached out to take the bowl from my hands. I'll do it myself. I frowned slightly and said, your hand is injured. Wan Ning. Don't you like it when I feed you? Sha Wan Ning replied without hesitation. I like it. Only then did I smile in satisfaction. Watching Sha Wan Ning eat obediently, I continued to scoop another spoonful of porridge to feed Sha Wan Ning. After eating half a bowl of porridge, when I brought it to her lips again, Sha Wan Ning shook her head and said she wasn't hungry and didn't want to eat anymore. I watched Sha Wan Ning eat so little. There was still more than half a bowl left. It felt like coaxing a child. Can you eat just one more bite? Wan Ning is the most obedient. Sha Wan Ning really obeyed and took another bite. I knew she had just recovered from a fever and felt unwell. She definitely wasn't hungry. So I didn't push her anymore. And I was very hungry after tossing and turning all night. I just took the remaining porridge for myself. I kept spooning it into my mouth. Sha Wan Ning watched me eat the leftover porridge. I couldn't help but gasp in surprise. I dazedly called out. I muttered. Chen. I stuffed a big mouthful of porridge into my mouth. I looked at Sha Wan Ning in confusion and mumbled my question. Sha Wan Ning smiled and shook her head. A matter. Then she grabbed a piece of paper from the bedside to help me wipe my mouth. Seeing the scar on my lip, she hesitated for a moment. She still asked, how did your lip get hurt? If Sha Wan Ning hadn't asked about it, I had almost forgotten that my lip was bitten. It doesn't hurt anymore. After finishing the leftover porridge, I licked my mouth. I just happened to lick the scab. I was momentarily at a loss for words. I couldn't directly say that it was her who bit me. She probably didn't even know when she did it. I thought for a moment before answering. I was bitten by a kitten. Sha Wan Ning didn't believe it. She carefully observed my expression. Where did the kitten come from? I was bitten by a stray cat by the roadside. After saying that, I got up to leave. If I didn't leave, Sha Wan Ning would keep asking. I didn't know how to make up a story. But Sha Wan Ning didn't give me the chance to leave at all. I had just stood up when Sha Wan Ning grabbed me. She lay entirely in my embrace. Her beautiful big eyes had a hint of grievance. I wanted to run away. I awkwardly smiled. No. I'm a bit hungry. I just want to find something to eat again. Sha Wan Ning picked up the phone beside her. Then I'll have someone bring another meal up. I grabbed Sha Wan Ning to stop her from making the call. Sha Wan Ning put down the phone and curled her thin lips. Go ahead and say it. What's wrong with your mouth? Sha Wan Ning actually suspected it was her who bit it. Because at that time, she was burning with fever and was a bit delirious. I still had some feeling as if I had bitten something. I don't remember it very clearly. So she insisted on asking me. She wanted me to give her a definitive answer. She said she was bitten by a cat. Was she scolding herself? Sha Wan Ning shook her head in helplessness and smiled. Yichen is quite strong. I didn't even know how to come up with a believable excuse. I knew Sha Wan Ning wouldn't let me off that easily. I could only gently rub her head and speak softly. Actually, I accidentally bit myself while munching on a chicken leg last night. Sha Wan Ning frowned slightly. This reason sounds much more believable than being bitten by a stray cat. Seeing me like this, she realized I wasn't going to tell her. So she stopped pressing for more questions. But seeing Sha Wan Ning's injury, my expression slowly darkened. I asked her seriously for the first time. Why do you hurt yourself? Do you know how dangerous this is? Sha Wan Ning looked down and remained silent. I continued to drive back. Wan Ning, promise me you won't do anything to hurt yourself in the future, okay? Sha Wan Ning tilted her head and looked at me with a knowing expression. She nodded in agreement. As long as you don't leave me. Don't abandon me. I'll listen to whatever you say. But these were thoughts Sha Wan Ning could only keep in her heart. She didn't dare to let me know. She leaned on my shoulder and a wave of sleepiness hit her. She yawned, her eyes glistening with tears. I gently spoke up. Lie down and sleep a bit more. Sha Wan Ning's eyes were hazy with sleep. Then sleep with me. I was stunned for a moment, then smiled and nodded. The two of us lay down on the bed like that. At the beginning, there was still a bit of space between us. After a while, Sha Wan Ning closed her eyes and began to move closer to me. It seemed like she was searching for the most comfortable position. She reached out and wrapped her arms around my waist and didn't move again. Eventually, she fell into a deep sleep. We slept for a long time this time. Just as it was getting dark outside, Sha Wan Ning woke up first. We were still holding each other in the same position. Seeing that I was still asleep, Sha Wan Ning quietly watched me. Suddenly, the bedroom door creaked open. Sha Wan Ning's mother, Shen Wei, walked in. Are you okay? Sha Wan Ning ignored her mother. She only gave a slightly quieter expression. Shen Wei saw the scene in front of her. She was instantly stunned. How did it seem like there was a young man sleeping in her daughter's bed? She hadn't heard her daughter mention having someone she liked. How did it happen that after a trip with her husband, her own daughter suddenly had a boy she liked? Shen Wei stood at the doorway for a moment. I didn't know where I should go. At that moment, Sha Yuandong walked up behind me. He saw his wife standing at the door without going in. He gave her a tap. He was about to ask why she wasn't going in. Shen Wei turned and pulled Sha Yuandong away. Before leaving, she thoughtfully helped Sha Wan Ning gently close the door. I vaguely heard some noise outside. I woke up groggily. I rubbed my eyes and asked, did someone just come in? Sha Wan Ning nodded. My parents. I felt like I was struck by lightning. You said your parents are here? Then where are uncle and aunt now? Sha Wan Ning smiled at me. They're downstairs. She knew without thinking that with her parents' personalities, they wouldn't leave today without seeing Lu Yichen in person. That couple wouldn't leave. I was so scared that I started to stutter. Then they see me with you? Sha Wan Ning looked at my reaction with a smile. My parents are very easy to talk to. Don't be afraid. I forced a smile that looked worse than crying. I'm not afraid. I'm just a little nervous. Why didn't you wake me up earlier? Sha Wan Ning smiled and said, it's a matter of principle. If Yichen doesn't want to see me, I'll just tell them to go back first. Next time, I'll introduce you to my parents when there's a chance. They will definitely like you very much. I think that would be very rude. How can that be? Let's get up, freshen up, and hurry downstairs. Uncle and aunt have been waiting for a long time. Sha Wan Ning let out a soft laugh. Okay, take your time, no rush. I quickly got out of bed. I ran a couple of steps and then ran back to Sha Wan Ning's side. I almost forgot that you were injured. I'll help you go freshen up. Sha Wan Ning smiled and winked. I can walk by myself. I glanced at Sha Wan Ning. Her face was still so pale. She looked fragile and delicate. What if you fall? Listening to my words, there was an underlying concern for her. Sha Wan Ning was immersed in it. She was also afraid that my feelings for her were only limited to concern. Soon after finishing washing up, I walked downstairs with Sha Wan Ning. The more I walked, the more nervous I became. I didn't know what would happen next. Sha Wan Ning sensed my unease. She took the initiative to hold my hand. It's okay. Don't be afraid. Sha Wan Ning's parents had already seen us. They looked at our intertwined hands. Shen Wei smiled and kept staring at me. Sha Wan Ning introduced me to the two of them. Mom and Dad. This is Lu Yichen. I smiled and nodded to greet them. Hello, Uncle. Hello, Auntie. Shen Wei and Sha Yuandong both smiled and nodded. Mr. Lu, right? You don't have to be too formal. I nodded politely in response. Uncle and Aunt. Just call me by my name. Then I signaled for Wan Ning to let go of my hand. Who knew Wan Ning would still loosen her grip? She directly grabbed my hand and walked to the side to sit down. Then she sat down next to me. Shen Wei looked at me with great delight. Yichen. I liked you the moment I saw you. You're really handsome. I wish I had a son like you. Wan Ning listened to her mother say this. Her grip naturally tightened a bit. She felt quite upset inside. Please don't call Lu Yichen her son in the next moment. She doesn't want a brother. She wants a husband. Thinking of this, Wan Ning quickly called out beside me. How could Shen Wei not know what her daughter meant? She smiled and ignored it, continuing to talk to me. It's a pity she gave birth to such a daughter. I couldn't help but laugh at Shen Hui's words. The initial nervousness was completely gone. I glanced at Sha Wan Ning beside me and said, Auntie, Wan Ning is a wonderful and outstanding person. Upon hearing me say this, Sha Wan Ning turned her head and secretly smiled. Shen Wei replied, if you think it's good, that's enough. If this girl is throwing a tantrum, just let me know. Sha Wan Ning looked at me with a pitiful expression. My parents are on your side so quickly. They don't care at all about me, the patient. I softly comforted her. Uncle and Auntie love you the most. Sha Wan Ning countered. Does Brother Yichen love me? I was taken aback for a moment. I felt a bit shy and didn't know how to respond. Sha Wan Ning suddenly asked me this in front of everyone. Her parents are still here. I felt a bit embarrassed. But in Sha Wan Ning's eyes, it seemed like hesitation. A hint of loneliness flashed in her eyes. She didn't want to make me feel uncomfortable. I could only pretend to be relaxed and say, I was just asking casually. Shen Wei and Sha Yuandong next to me could tell. I'm sure I like Sha Wan Ning. At that moment, Uncle Wang, the butler, came over to say dinner was ready. He called us to go eat. Sha Yuandong beckoned us and said, let's eat first. The atmosphere at the dinner table was great. Shen Wei was busy serving me food while talking. Xiao Chen. Don't be shy. Eat more. My mother passed away when I was very young. Shen Hui's care made me feel a warmth I hadn't felt in a long time. I was a bit touched. I looked down at the food in my bowl and said to Shen Wei, thank you, Auntie. After dinner, Sha Yuandong asked me to go for a walk in the garden with him. As we walked, he suddenly asked me, Sha Chen's website, hey, Chen, are you curious why Wan Ning would engage in self-harm? I looked at Sha Yuandong and nodded. I was indeed curious. I also asked Wan Ning, but she seemed unwilling to talk. She is injured and not in good health. So I didn't press her further. I thought I would ask her in detail when the time was right. Today, Sha Yuandong noticed Wan Ning's concern for me. He knew the importance of this man in his daughter's heart. He decided to reveal something he had never shared with outsiders. There are rumors in the outside world that Wan Ning is sick. When she has episodes, she might hit people or even harm them. Sha Yuandong said with a helpless bitter smile. But that's not the case. She doesn't hit people and would never harm anyone. She only shuts herself in and harms herself. In fact, she hasn't engaged in self-harm for a long time. This time, it must be because for her, someone or something very important affected her to become this way. After hearing that, I only feel more heartbroken for Sha Wan Ning. Did she go through something to become this way? Sha Yuandong nodded, recalling over a decade ago. He could never forget that year. He almost thought he would lose Sha Wan Ning forever. An accident happened when Wan Ning was 10 years old. An accident occurred. In the business world, with competition, it's inevitable that someone will harbor resentment. But they actually kidnapped Wan Ning. They wanted to use this to blackmail us for a large sum of money and project proposals for ransom. But that girl has been smart since she was little. She sensed something was wrong halfway and found an opportunity to escape. Later, we found out. It took many days to finally find her. In a remote little village. in a dilapidated house that had been uninhabited for a long time. The moment we found her, we saw her curled up alone in a dark corner. At that time, years. A small lump was there. No one was allowed to get close. Forcing proximity would only harm oneself. I heard about a remote village. A familiar scene flashed through my mind, but it quickly disappeared. I only heard Sha Yuandong continue speaking. Since then, her mother and I spent a long time accompanying her. It helped her gradually feel secure. She no longer engaged in self-harming behavior. Are you scared? Scared of Wan Ning being like this? I shook my head and looked at him seriously. Uncle, I'm not afraid. I'm just very heartbroken for her. Don't worry. I will take good care of her. Sha Yuandong nodded. I can tell that girl really likes you. I nodded and said, Uncle, you can rest assured. I will definitely take good care of Wan Ning. Before leaving, Shen Wei pulled me aside. She mysteriously pulled out a bracelet and gave it to me. She didn't give me a chance to refuse. Then she turned and quickly left. I looked at the bracelet in my hand, feeling a bit troubled. I looked at Sha Wan Ning and asked, This bracelet is very precious. I can't accept it, right? Sha Wan Ning saw the necklace in my hand. Just accept it. It was given by my mom. Hearing this, I stopped being conflicted. Then I seriously thought about it. Then I should give a gift to Auntie to show my gratitude. What should I give her? Sha Wan Ning leaned close to my ear and said, How about giving her a son-in-law? My ears turned red all of a sudden. Wan Ning. What did you just say? Sha Wan Ning knew I heard her clearly. She seemed a bit flustered, afraid I would refuse. I said to get some rest early. Then she quickly ran towards the bedroom. I stood there looking at Sha Wanning's back. I muttered to myself, Why is she running so fast? Just give it, then. I didn't refuse, either. After saying that, I quickly ran to catch up with Sha Wan Ning. When I reached the bedroom door, Sha Wanning's hand suddenly stopped as she was about to open the door. I didn't notice and kept walking forward. I bumped straight into the door. I covered my nose. Wan Ning. Were you doing it on purpose? Seeing me like this, Sha Wan Ning was surely worried I got hurt. She anxiously pulled my hand away. I didn't do it on purpose. Does it hurt a lot? Let me take a look. Seeing her anxious expression made me smile through my tears. You have to compensate me. Just give yourself to me as compensation. Sha Wanning's body stiffened. She looked at me in shock. Are you serious? I nodded vigorously. I really mean it. Sha Wan Ning hugged me tightly. She buried her head in my chest. Everything I have is yours. I'll give you whatever you want. I raised my hand and gently touched her head. I only want you. I want you to be well. You mustn't get hurt anymore. Sha Wan Ning held me tightly. I won't. Yichen is here with me. I will be fine. I heard Sha Wan Ning say this. I couldn't help but feel curious. In my memory, there hasn't been much connection with Sha Wan Ning in this life and the previous one. The connections made after being reborn were all initiated by me. I often worry that the current Sha Wan Ning hasn't fallen in love with me. I wonder when she started to like me. I asked, When did you start liking me? Sha Wanning's thoughts drifted away for a moment. Finally, she smiled lightly, revealing her charming dimple. A long, long time ago. I became even more curious. Did you know me a long time ago? But I have no memory of that at all. Sha Wan Ning replied with a smile. It's enough that I remember. I yawned. I decided not to think too much about it. Sha Wan Ning asked, tilting her head. Are you sleepy? I nodded. A little. I really wanted to sleep with Sha Wan Ning. But I was afraid I wouldn't be able to control myself. For safety's sake, it was better to stay apart. I walked towards the door. I plan to sleep in the room next to the bedroom. Then I'll take you back to the room first. Get washed up and sleep early. Sha Wan Ning pouted and looked at me. I don't want to. I want to sleep here. While she was being clingy and spoiled, I finally agreed. Just like that, she lay in my arms. I inhaled the faint fragrance of the girl and fell asleep. Sweet dreams all night. The next morning, I was woken up by my phone ringing. I didn't want to pay attention to the caller. Sha Wan Ning sat up and took my phone. She saw the caller ID was Lu Jinian. Sha Wan Ning knew that Lu Jinian was my brother. But she also knew what kind of person Lu Jinian really was. I was afraid to say anything bad about Lu Jinian. I would be unhappy. So I never said anything. At this moment, I closed my eyes and asked, Who called? Sha Wan Ning slowly spoke up. Lu Jinian. Then she handed me the phone. Without thinking, I said something that I didn't care about at all. Alright. I can't believe it. Then I turned my head and went back to sleep. But the person on the other end of the phone stubbornly wouldn't give me that chance. After a while, the phone rang again. It was as if they wouldn't stop until I answered this call today. I sat up from the bed. I took the phone from Sha Wanning's hand. I pressed the answer button and said sarcastically, What do you want, Lu Jinian? You'd better have a reason. Lu Jinian heard my impatient tone. He continued to speak as if he didn't hear me. Bro. I returned to the Sha family villa. Upon hearing this, I felt helpless. Why are you bothering me and Wan Ning this early? What do you want? I only heard Lu Jinian say. A couple of days ago, you rushed out the door. I haven't been home for so long. I finally managed to find out you were here. I'm worried about you. Someone is blocking me at the door. They won't let me in. I know in my heart. Lu Jinian says he's worried about me. In reality, he wants to use this opportunity to get closer to Sha Wan Ning. Otherwise, he wouldn't come under the pretense of caring about me. He came to the Sha family villa early in the morning. I said to Lu Jinian on the other end of the phone, I'm not available right now. You should go back. After saying that, I hung up the phone. Sha Wan Ning looked at me and asked, Is he looking for you? I nodded. Disturbing our sleep early in the morning. It's really annoying. Sha Wan Ning nodded in agreement. Anyone that Yichen doesn't like. I don't like either. I couldn't help but laugh. With a flattened face, I said, Wan Ning. If placed in ancient times, she would definitely be a seductive demoness. Sha Wan Ning looked up at me and said, as long as I can be with you, I'm willing to become a demoness. I smiled and hugged Sha Wan Ning. She really is a proper demoness. Sha Wan Ning raised her eyebrow. Then I should do something a demoness would do. Otherwise, I don't deserve this title. After saying that, she hooked my chin and leaned in for a kiss. But she missed my lips. Her hand kissed the back of my hand instead. I covered my mouth to prevent Sha Wan Ning from kissing me. You can't kiss me. Sha Wan Ning instantly looked unhappy, frowning at me. She asked a bit pitifully, why can't I kiss you? I still covered my mouth and replied, because I haven't brushed my teeth yet. Sha Wan Ning laughed helplessly. I don't mind. Wouldn't Lu Yichen mind if I hadn't brushed my teeth before kissing you? I shook the scene without hesitation. I hurriedly got up to wash up. When I was getting ready to go downstairs for breakfast, I could hear what sounded like people arguing. Both Sha Wan Ning and I were puzzled. Normally, the servants would definitely be too scared to make such a loud noise at home. I had already guessed most of it in my mind. Sha Wan Ning also knew who was causing the commotion downstairs. Before we had even gone down the stairs, we saw Lu Jinian at the entrance. He was being held by the two bodyguards at the door. At that moment, Lu Jinian was shouting non-stop. I am the second young master of the Lu family. Lu Yichen's younger brother. You won't let me in? Be careful, or you'll regret it later. Aren't you just guard dogs for someone else? How dare you be so rude to me? The words he spoke were getting more and more unpleasant. However, no matter what Lu Jinian said, the two bodyguards at the door didn't budge at all. They were blocking Lu Jinian from entering with indifferent expressions. I secretly admired that he was indeed someone chosen by Sha Wan Ning. Lu Jinian wanted to force his way in. They caught him. They made it so he couldn't move at all. I saw Lu Jinian throwing a tantrum at the door. It was completely unlike him. There was no trace of his usual elegance. I watched for a while. I really couldn't stand Lu Jinian's shouting. So I called out to him. Lu Jinian. Upon hearing my voice, Lu Jinian quieted down. The two bodyguards released their grip on him. Lu Jinian rubbed his arms. In an instant, he put on an elegant expression. He looked up at me. Look at how they treat me. After saying that, he made sure to glance at Sha Wan Ning. I observed Lu Jinian's actions closely. A smirk formed at the corner of my mouth in sarcasm. I wrapped my arm around Sha Wanning's slender waist. I deliberately ignored Lu Jinian. I praised the two security guards who blocked Lu Jinian, speaking to Sha Wan Ning. Wan Ning. The security at the Sha family villa is really impressive. You can tell they're well trained. Sha Wan Ning nodded with a smile. Sha Mian also nodded with a smile. She linked her arm with mine and went to the dining table for breakfast. She helped pull out my chair. Then she sat down next to me. I served her a bowl of hot porridge. It seemed like we could only see each other. We completely forgot about Lu Jinian, who was still blocked at the door. Lu Jinian glanced back at the door. Oh, I came looking for you early in the morning. I haven't had breakfast yet either. I asked, knowing the answer. And then? Lu Jinian looked at me and then at Sha Wan Ning. He said with a bit of anticipation, can I have breakfast with brother and Wan Ning? I gently stirred my porridge with a spoon. I smirked contemptuously. Who are you saying you want to have breakfast with? Lu Jinian couldn't figure out why I asked this question. Coming here early in the morning was all to get close to Sha Wan Ning. Putting aside the bad rumors outside, Sha Wan Ning, whether in appearance or background, is incomparable to those women out there. Lu Jinian thinks he is handsomer and better than me. Any woman wouldn't be able to resist him. As long as he lets Sha Wan Ning know him, he will surely win Sha Wanning's love. The more Lu Jinian thought about it, the more confident he became, lifting his head. Brother and Wan Ning, huh? I couldn't help but laugh at Lu Jinian's thick skin and foolishness. I raised an eyebrow and looked at Lu Jinian. You call her Wan Ning too? Lu Jinian still asked stubbornly. Brother just did that. Why not? I put down the spoon in my hand. I said with an indifferent expression. Why are there so many whys? If I say no, then it's no. Next to me, Sha Wan Ning looked at me with admiration. She was enjoying my possessiveness towards her. Lu Yichen said gently. Wan Ning didn't say anything. Don't you think this is a bit bullying, brother? After saying that, he glanced at Sha Wan Ning. He forced a smile that was somewhat tragic. I watched Lu Yichen's performance. It's really a pity he doesn't act. I smiled and looked at Sha Wan Ning. Wan Ning. Do you think I'm bullying someone too? Sha Wan Ning shook her head and said. No. Everything brother Yichen does is right. Lu Yichen was completely stunned. I had only heard that Sha Wan was naturally aloof. She was icy toward everyone. But today, I saw such a docile and gentle side of Sha Wan Ning. Lu Yichen said weakly. Bone. Can you let me come in first? I have been standing for too long. My legs are so sore. I think Lu Yichen has really thick skin. Still not giving up on wanting to get through this door. You should ask Wan Ning. This is her home. Lu Yichen looked at Sha Wan Ning hopefully and asked. Wan Ning, dear sister. Can you make them not block me? Sha Wan Ning ignored Lu Yichen. As if he didn't exist at all. Holding my hand to correct what I just said. This is our home. I smiled at Sha Wanning's serious expression. Our home. There's a handsome guy waiting at our door for your answer. When Sha Wan Ning heard me say this, she looked up toward the door. Her cold and beautiful face had not a trace of warmth. Lu Jinian saw Sha Wanning finally looking at him. He quickly adjusted his bangs and said, Wan Ning. Sha Wan-ning firmly stopped Lu Jinian from saying what he wanted next. Then she covered my ears. Don't call me like that again. Be careful with your words. Then she glanced at the door. The two bodyguards spoke with indifference. What use are you if you can't do your job? If you can't do this job well, I can replace you at any time. The two bodyguards, upon hearing this, forcibly dragged Lu Jinian outside. They were afraid Lu Jinian would disturb the people inside. They even kindly covered his mouth. Lu Jinian was thrown out of Sha Wanning's villa like this, with his mouth covered. He could only hum and whine the whole way without saying a word. I watched as Lu Jinian was pulled away, feeling delighted. It was like watching a show. Sha Wan-ning asked with some confusion. Are you really that happy? Weren't you very close with this brother before? I lowered my gaze, my voice slightly low. I made many mistakes in the past. I also misjudged many people. Sha Wan-ning didn't want to see even a hint of sadness on my face. She picked up a bowl of congee and fed it to me. If I don't eat it soon, it'll get cold. Sha Wan-ning took a turn to eat for herself. Then she fed me again. We finished breakfast like this, taking turns. Lu Jinian was kicked out of the room. He had a breath of frustration with nowhere to vent. He blamed all the humiliation he suffered today on me. Remembering my attitude these past few times, he clearly understood that I had changed. He got in the car and took out his phone to call Su Qian. When the call connected, he said, "See you at the usual place." Then he drove away. In the large hotel, on the carpet, there were clothes and pants of men and women everywhere. Lu Jinian held Su Qian in his arms. Did you go today? Today, I went to find Lu Yichen. He has changed. You don't think he has discovered our relationship, do you? Su Qian thought for a moment. What flaws should we expose? Lu Jinian recounted what happened this morning. Su Qian listened to Lu Jinian's words, contemplating what to do next. Then she gave a disdainful smile, her gaze turning sharp. Can't see him. We'll create opportunities to meet. Isn't junior year starting soon? We should gather before school starts, right? Let's plan a get-together with our classmates and friends in a couple of days. He will definitely come if we invite him. We'll just need to prepare in advance then. It will be foolproof. I want to see the dignified only daughter of the Shaw family, together with a man who has slept with others. Lu Jinian didn't expect Su Qian to come up with such a sinister plan. However, he was quite looking forward to seeing that scene. I'm listening to you. In the Shaw family villa, in a garden filled with a vast expanse of sunflowers, Sha Wan-ning and I were sitting on the swing. A gentle breeze blew, stirring a vast sea of flowers. Sha Wanning's small feet were on the swing. They swayed rhythmically. Wan-ning, don't ordinary people usually plant roses? Why do you plant such a large patch of sunflowers? Sha Wan-ning looked at me seriously. When you weren't around before, I would often come to the garden and stay for a long time. I always felt that seeing these sunflowers meant you were by my side. I asked in confusion. Why? Do I look like these sunflowers? Sha Wan-ning smiled and said, because Yichen is my little son. He is the light of my life. Upon hearing this, I couldn't help but hug Sha Wan-ning. From now on, I will always be with you. Sha Wan-ning opened her mouth, wanting to say something. She hesitated whether to say it or not. In the end, she still asked, Brother Yichen, can you come live with me? After asking, she touched her nose. Even her breathing became cautious. She looked very nervous. She seemed a bit afraid to hear my answer. If you don't want to, it's okay. I go there often. Before she finished speaking, I heard a clear reply. Sure. I continued speaking. I want to live with you. I was worried you wouldn't agree. I was thinking of some reason to make you agree right away. I didn't expect you to say it first. I'm so happy. Sha Wan-ning thought I wouldn't agree. Upon hearing me say that, her eyes sparkled with joy. She looked both surprised and excited. Sha Wan-ning was a bit impatient. I'll have someone come over later to move your things. I shook my head and said, no need. I'll go back myself later. I'll grab some things and come back. Sha Wan-ning immediately drove back. I will accompany you. I didn't agree. I was also afraid she would get upset at home alone. I had to patiently coax her. Your injury isn't healed yet. You need to rest well to recover quickly. I saw Sha Wan-ning still had her eyes downcast. I assured her again. Wan-ning, I will be back soon. You must wait for me at home obediently. Only then did Sha Wan-ning show a smile. I will. Be careful on the road. I'm going home to sell things with the Lu family. It's indeed not ideal to take Sha Wan-ning along. Sha Wan-ning alone at home. Decided to renovate our home nicely, so that I can live comfortably. She does things without any hesitation. She does what she thinks of immediately. Sha Wan-ning took out her phone and called Wen Chao. Arranged a bunch of matters unrelated to the company. Asked her to choose curtains that boys like. Go buy bed sheets and duvet covers in colors boys would like. As long as the boxes are what the boys like, it's fine. No matter what. Buy everything we see. Wen Chao doesn't understand. Suddenly asking her to buy so much. What's the point of buying things that boys like? She doesn't dare to ask. While she was thinking, she heard Sha Wan-ning say, arrive early for a reward. Late, and your salary will be deducted. Then she hung up the phone. Wen Chao was furious but couldn't express it. Just knew she would use salary as a threat. And unfortunately, she was affected by this threat. It's only because Sha Wan-ning really gives too much. Wen Chao didn't dare to waste a moment and rushed to buy things. She is very efficient in getting things done. In no time, she bought the items and arrived at the Shaw family villa. Just the clothes filled up a whole vehicle for delivery. There were other vehicles filled with many items boys like. Wen Chao was directing from the side. The delivery people carried items inside one after another. They even replaced it with the chosen curtains. The sheets and covers have all been dry cleaned and dried. Have the servants at home replace them. Wen Chao said, taking credit for it. He. My efficiency is pretty good, right? Sha Wan Ning nodded in satisfaction. Very good. I didn't expect you, a single person, to understand these things about boys so well. Wen Chao was at a loss whether to laugh or cry. Sha Nian wondered if this was a compliment or a dig at her. Let's take it as a self-compliment, then. In an instant, Sha Wanning's bedroom style changed drastically, from a princess room to a nightclub-style esports room. Seeing that Sha Wan Ning was in a good mood at the moment, Wen Chao couldn't help but ask a few more questions. You decorated the room like this because... Sha Wanning's face was smiling, and her tone was very proud. A single person like you wouldn't understand. Wen Chao wished she could tear her mouth off. She shouldn't have asked. She deserved this suffering. After Wen Chao left, Sha Wan Ning looked around the room. I organized the areas that I wasn't very satisfied with. With my hands on my hips, I looked around and nodded. Brother Yichin will like this when he comes back, right? It felt like illusions were appearing before my eyes. As if she had already seen me. The expression of surprise when he comes back will be incredible. Running around the room, Sha Wan Ning came back to her senses and looked at her watch. It's almost time. She was preparing to cook for herself tonight. To have the meal ready for me when I come back to eat. She turned around and walked towards the kitchen. On the other side, I just entered the Lu family's house. I saw Lu Yuntian and my stepmother Li Fang at home. Lu Jinian was sitting beside Li Fang. Li Fang was patting Lu Jinian's back, comforting him. And Lu Yeshan's expression seemed quite dissatisfied. He was on the verge of getting angry. I raised an eyebrow. I had already anticipated what the matter was. It must be that Lu Jinian told them about this morning's events. I stepped forward. I opened my mouth and simply called out, Dad. I spoke up. I automatically ignored the other two people present. Lu Yuntian was already quite displeased with me at this moment. Hearing me call out once, he immediately scolded me with a serious expression. Can't you see there are two people sitting here? I slightly curled my lips. Then I covered my mouth with my hand, pretending to be surprised. Oh, I'm so sorry. Look at me, I've just turned 20. But my look is not good now. I didn't see Aunt Li and my brother. Watching Lu Jinian and Li Fang's faces alternately turn dark and red, I found it extremely amusing. Aunt Li and my brother treat me so well. Surely they won't blame me, right? Li Fang gritted her teeth upon hearing my words. She tried hard to control herself, especially since Lu Yuntian was present. I couldn't lose my temper casually. She is truly a gentle and virtuous woman. Li Fang forced a smile. That is natural. Then she continued to comfort Lu Jinian. Caught my attention. It seemed as if both of them had been bullied by me, with a wronged expression. In fact, it was all for Lu Yuntian to see. My gaze followed Li Fang to Lu Jinian, as if I had just noticed Lu Jinian. My brother looked very sad. What happened? Who bullied you? Lu Jinian realized that I finally focused my attention on him. Just when he was comforted a bit, he started performing again. He didn't answer me. He just turned around and continued to complain to Li Fang. He returned home. He exaggeratedly recounted to Lu Yuntian what happened in the morning, trying hard to ruin his impression of Lu Yichin. Ideally, one day he could stir things up so much that Lu Yichin gets kicked out. But Lu Jinian didn't expect that I would come home today. Usually, Lu Jinian acts very well behaved and sensible at home. In the past, whenever something went wrong, it was always my fault. I didn't dare to say much when I was scolded. I even took the initiative to help Lu Jinian take the blame. It was only because I felt that Lu Jinian was very good to me. He was the only person in this family who cared about me. Plus, we are only a month apart in age. So I often played with him. After my mother passed away, I gradually distanced myself from Lu Yuntian. The two of us slowly lost our feelings for each other. Later, Lu Jinian, the illegitimate child, followed Lu Yuntian around all day, calling him Dad. This endeared Lu Yuntian very much. The mother and son were in perfect harmony. It felt as if I was the one who was superfluous in this family, to live another life. I think many things do not need to be forced. In this life, I just want to treat the ones who love me well. At this moment, Lu Yuntian beside me saw that Lu Jinian, who was just about to be comforted, started to feel sad again. I feel an unbearable pain. Lu Yuntian looked at me with a long face. How can you still ask? Don't you know what's wrong with your brother? My expression was full of innocence. I just got home. How could I know? Lu Yuntian frowned at me. You haven't been home for the past couple of days. Where have you been? Do we still matter to you? Is there still a place for this family in your heart? I could see Lu Yuntian getting more and more angry as he spoke. After speaking, he slapped the armrest of the sofa heavily. He exuded an aura of authority from head to toe. I wasn't scared at all and slightly raised my eyelids. Didn't you already know where I went? Lu Jinian must have told you everything, right? Why bother asking me again? Does it make any difference whether I'm home or not? Lu Yuntian listened to what I said. He pointed at me, furious. Li Fang hurried over to comfort him. While soothing Lu Yuntian, she said, Honey, Yichin is still young and doesn't understand. Don't be angry with him. Lu Yuntian snorted coldly. Jin Xiao is just a little thing. But he understands much more now. You don't have to speak up for him every time. I only learned about Li Fang in this lifetime. She wasn't genuinely caring for me before. It seemed like she was always pleading for me, saying good things in front of Lu Yuntian. In reality, she was just adding fuel to the fire. After Li Fang finished speaking, it would only make my situation worse. I used to naively think she really cared about me. Lu Yuntian looked at me and said in a commanding tone, Since you know in your heart, why not go apologize to your brother? Your brother is willing to forgive you. Then this matter can just pass. I felt as if I had heard the biggest joke. I scoffed coldly. Apologize? Why should I apologize to him? Lu Yuntian looked at me angrily. You haven't been home for a few days. Jin Nian is worried about you. He got up early this morning to look for you. But how did you respond? If you don't feel sorry for your brother, fine. But you even had him thrown out. Can't even let him in for breakfast? Yichen, when did your heart become so cruel? Lu Jinian, who had been silent beside me, glanced at me before looking at Lu Yuntian. He said hoarsely, Dad, I know you're angry with your brother, Ji Yuzu. I'm fine. No need to apologize, brother. Don't force him. I watched Lu Jinian's performance with amusement. It couldn't last long. He and Li Fang really are mother and son, aren't they? They both have the same style. I smiled. Then I should thank my brother for being so generous. I have things to do. I'm leaving now. After saying that, I didn't want to waste any more time with them. I got up, ready to head upstairs, to tidy up the things I needed to take with me. I promised to have dinner with Sha Wan Ning before leaving. If I delay any longer, Sha Wan Ning will be worried if I come back late. Just as I stood up, I heard Lu Yushin's voice. Stop right there. I stood there, coldly asking, is there anything else? Lu Yuntian also stood up and walked in front of me. He pointed to Lu Jinian's seat and said, you will not apologize to your brother today. You can't go anywhere. I was getting a bit irritated at that moment. The atmosphere around us instantly grew tense. I glared at Lu Yuntian with a cold expression. Just think about it. Lu Yuntian was taken aback by the aura I exuded. Embarrassed and enraged, he raised his hand. Without any hesitation, it came down. All I heard was a loud smack. The slap made my face turn to the side. It was clear how much force Lu Yuntian had used. A red handprint quickly appeared on my face. My body remained standing straight. Lu Yushin's slap caught me completely off guard. I hadn't even reacted yet. I slapped myself across the face. I really let my guard down. I could only feel my face was a bit numb. My tongue lightly grazed my cheek and my mouth. It really hurt a bit. Li Fang and Lu Jinian, who were nearby, saw this scene. They exchanged a glance, reveling in my misfortune. With their heads down, they showed a smug smile on their faces. Afraid of being discovered, they quickly disappeared. After a moment's pause, I clenched my fist tightly and then released it. I curled my lips into a smirk. I glanced at Lu Jinian and Li Fang. Then I looked at Lu Yuntian. As you wish. I won't be coming back to this home anymore. I have taken this slap. From now on, we are even. Let me give you a piece of advice. It's best not to provoke me. Otherwise, you'll bear the consequences. After saying that, I observed their reactions. They were left in a daze. They stood there processing what I had just said. I went straight upstairs to get my things. I returned to the room and locked the door. My phone rang with a message notification. It interrupted my sadness at that moment. I took out my phone and saw a message from Sha Wan Ning. Brother Yichen. Do you need me to pick you up? Seeing Sha Wanning's message, my lips curled into a pout. At this moment, I really wanted her to hug me. I was about to type a reply saying I would be back soon. I thought my facial injury must look terrible. I got up and walked to the mirror to take a closer look. Sure enough, it was already swollen. I felt a bit frustrated at that moment. How could I face Sha Wan Ning looking like this? Sha Wan Ning had already personally prepared dinner at the villa. Dishes were neatly arranged on the dining table. She covered them to prevent them from getting cold. She thoughtfully put lids on to keep them warm. Only then did she nod in satisfaction. A faint smile appeared at the corners of her mouth. Then she sat at the dining table waiting for my return. After a while, the waiting time felt especially long. I got up again to head towards the door. I stood at the door and looked around for a moment. My brows furrowed slightly. I didn't see even a trace of my shadow. I couldn't count how many times this had happened. Anxiously, I raised my hand to check the time. Sha Wan Ning was calculating in her mind. By this time, logically, I should have returned. But how could I have been saved? The longer she waited, the more afraid Sha Wan Ning became. Afraid that something happened to me. And afraid that I wouldn't come back. Afraid that everything that had happened between us was fake. She thought of countless possibilities in her mind. Sha Wan Ning took out her phone, looking slightly anxious. She anxiously sent me a message. Her fingers trembled slightly as she sent the message. After the message was sent, she waited for a while again. She didn't receive my reply. At this moment, Sha Wan Ning was even more worried, thinking about whether something had happened to me. So she was delayed. She nervously called me multiple times. The phone rang twice, but no one answered. With each ring, Sha Wanning's heart felt heavier. At that moment, I was applying medicine in front of the mirror. I was startled when I heard the phone ring. Seeing Sha Wanning's call, I knew it was her asking why I hadn't come back yet. What if I went back looking like this and embarrassed Sha Wan Ning? Hesitantly, I picked up the phone and pressed the answer button. Wan Ning. Just as the phone was about to ring out, Sha Wan Ning finally heard someone on the other end pick up the call. Upon hearing my voice come from the other side, Sha Wan Ning breathed a sigh of relief. Yichen, brother, why aren't you coming back? I knew Sha Wan Ning would be anxious waiting, so I gently replied, are you missing me? Sha Wan Ning immediately said, I miss you a lot. I hurriedly explained, I miss you too. I was just delayed by a little something. I lost track of time. Upon hearing I had something going on, Sha Wan Ning quickly asked, do you need my help? I shook my head. I can handle it myself. Sha Wan Ning asked again, so when will you come back? I'll come to pick you up. Saying that, she got up to get the car keys, preparing to go out and drive to pick me up. I heard Sha Wan Ning say she was coming to pick me up. Looking at my face in the mirror, I felt a bit nervous. It would definitely be bad to go back like this and have Sha Wan-ning see me. I can deal with being ugly. Sha Wan-ning would definitely get angry and worried if she saw I was hurt. How about I go back tomorrow instead? I applied medicine on my face. It will definitely be less swollen tomorrow. I immediately asked, Wan-ning, can I come back tomorrow? On the other side, Sha Wan-ning, holding the car keys, stopped her hurried steps upon hearing my words. She stood still in silence. She tightened her grip on the keys in her hand and didn't reply. I felt as if the air had gone still. There's no need to ask. It's obvious this woman is unwilling. Not speaking now. If she's not angry with herself, what else could it be? Both of them were silent for a while. I thought for a moment. Let's go back. We can't let Sha Wan-ning be unhappy by herself at home. What will happen if she starts overthinking then? The consequences would definitely be serious. I was the first to break the silence and said cheerfully, just teasing you. You fell for it, right? You mustn't be unhappy. I'll be back soon. No need to come pick me up. Be good and wait for me at home, okay? I'll be there in half an hour. Sha Wan-ning is just that easy to coax. Hearing that I would be back soon, her mood instantly improved. She smiled and nodded. She hung up the phone. I immediately walked towards the stairs. Lu Yuntian and the others were still downstairs. A few of them were startled by my words. After all, the Lu family's wealth now. A large part of it comes from my mother. What I mean is that they want to take away everything the Lu family has now. They are afraid. They fear that one day I might do just that. Such a good life might suddenly be gone in the future. Li Fang and Lu Jinian's eyes were filled with tension. Lu Jinian reached out and gently pushed Li Fang. He signaled her with his eyes to persuade Lu Yuntian. She can't lose her current life. They hope I will leave. But at the same time, they don't want me to leave. Taking every little bit of this home with me. A trace of ruthlessness flashed in Lu Jinian's eyes. They can't let me leave just like that. He tightened his hands forcefully. Perhaps the only way is to make Lu Yichen disappear forever. Li Fang held Lu Yushin's hand. Honey, don't be angry. It's not good for your health. Later, you should talk to Yichen properly. Don't mention leaving the house at every turn. Lu Yuntian is a person who cares a lot about his image. He has already physically attacked someone. It's impossible for him to Zhu Dong apologize to me now. HMPH. If he wants to leave, then he can go. Once he leaves this door, he shouldn't come back again. Li Fang is also helpless about Lu Yushin's stubborn temper. He glanced at Lu Jinian, not sure what to do next. Seeing me come down from upstairs, Lu Jinian looked a bit flustered. He knows I'm definitely going to see Sha Wan-ning. If they let me leave today, with the Sha family protecting me, it will be increasingly difficult for him to do anything to me in the future. I quickly spoke to Lu Yuntian. Dad, you should quickly persuade your brother. We can't let him leave. It's easy to manage. Hearing Lu Jinian's words, I shook my head. Really can't stay calm, can he? I wore a hint of a sarcastic smile on my face. Lu Yuntian glanced at me as I went downstairs, watching me really about to leave this home. He also felt a bit nervous. After all, the company is quite large now. Part of it belongs to what my mom left me. He can't lose everything he has now. But he can't even speak nicely right now. He spoke to me in a stiff tone. It's just a slap, isn't it? I am your dad. Can't I even hit you anymore? You're making a fuss over a small matter and planning to run away from home? If you leave, don't call me dad anymore. With a hint of a threatening tone, Lu Yuntian thought his words could scare me. He had never seen me so stubborn before. It's like I've become a different person. This version of me reminds him of someone. It's my mother. I heard Lu Yushin's words. My heart was calm, without a ripple. A home. The people in this home. None of them make me feel attached. There was no expression on my face. When I reached the door, I stopped in my tracks. Seeing my silhouette by the door, Lu Jinian and the others thought I had changed my mind. They didn't know. The next second, they heard me say coldly with my back to them, "Goodbye, Uncle Lu." After speaking, a brilliant smile bloomed on his lips. He resolutely walked out the door. Several people inside the door were stunned. Lu Yuntian anxiously grabbed a cup from the coffee table. He threw it forcefully toward the door. He even angrily shouted, "Lu Yichen." Unfortunately, I had already walked out. I drove at high speed all the way. It took less than half an hour to reach Sha Wanning's villa. Sha Wan-ning had just finished reheating all the dishes. Seeing that it was about time, she went to wait for me at the front gate. She saw me driving back. She stood there with a smile, waiting for me to park the car. I saw Sha Wanning's figure standing at the door waiting for me. I murmured, "How is this woman so beautiful? No matter where she stands, she is a beautiful sight. Such an outstanding woman." I actually ran away at first sight in my past life. It was simply blindingly foolish. I quickly parked the car and ran over to Sha Wan-ning. I stepped forward and hugged her tightly. Sha Wan-ning wished she could spend every minute and every second together with me. Yichen, brother, are you hungry?" Hearing Sha Wan-ning ask like this, I truly felt a bit hungry and nodded. She held my hand and walked inside. Only then did I notice the swollen handprint on my face. Sha Wan-ning stiffened completely. The smile disappeared from her face. She felt both angry and worried in her heart. How could it happen in such a short time? Yichen, brother, got hurt. She realized it only now. She was very angry but also afraid of scaring herself and tried her best to suppress, not to look too fierce. Looking at my face, she asked in a tone that still felt somewhat stiff. I was taken aback for a moment. I almost forgot that my face was hurt. I patted her head and said, "Don't be angry, okay? This time I was careless. I promise I won't let myself get hurt again." It was someone who acted. Sha Wan-ning was determined to find out who did it. The person she holds dear to her heart. How could they be so ruthless? I let out a gentle sigh. Lu Yun-tien. Sha Wan-ning felt particularly heartbroken. It's obvious that I've suffered a great injustice. I dare not imagine what my life at home was like before. Fortunately, they're together now. Does it hurt? As soon as she asked, Sha Wan-ning felt it was a useless question. I shook my head. Not happy. Please don't be upset, okay? She nodded slightly and didn't ask anything else. As soon as I entered, I smelled the aroma of the food. I felt even hungrier. It smells so good. I couldn't wait to sit at the dining table and picked up the chopsticks. I picked up a piece of braised pork rib and stuffed it into my mouth. Sha Wan-ning nervously looked at my reaction. I wonder if Lu Yichen would think it doesn't taste good. Seeing Sha Wanning's expectant expression, it seemed like she was waiting for my evaluation. I chewed for a while. It's delicious. You made it so tasty. Did you specifically learn how to make this? Sha Wan-ning blushed at my praise. She felt a bit shy. She slightly lowered her head to look at the bowl. She circled her chopsticks in the bowl. No, I just followed the tutorial. As long as Lu Yichen likes it, that's good. I have to admire her. This woman seems to be Wan Nenda. She can do anything. I heard that Sha Wan-ning just started middle school. She has already completed all the high school courses. So at a young age, she was allowed to take over the Sha family business. Her studies haven't been delayed either. She gets top grades in every subject. Even cooking, she just follows a tutorial casually. She can make it taste so good after just learning a bit. Really, it's infuriating how some people are just better than others. The meal ended amid their laughter and conversation. I came out after taking a shower. Sha Wan-ning had already finished washing in the next room. She was sitting by the bed with medicine in her hand, waiting for me. She took the towel I was using to dry my hair. With gentle movements, she applied the medicine for me. If it hurts, just tell me, okay? She seriously helped me wipe for a while. I looked at her serious expression and Ku Xiao Dao. Wan-ning. Don't look at me anymore. I know I look very ugly right now. Sha Wan-ning had a faint smile on her face. Lu Yichen is the most handsome. After saying that, she leaned against me. I took a deep breath of the scent on Sha Wan-ning. A sense of emotion washed over me. I felt a bit dazed. Bowl of noodles. You smell so good. Sha Wan-ning looked down and sniffed herself. There's no scent at all. If Lu Yichen says it smells good, then it smells good. As long as he likes it. It gave Lu Yichen another reason to like her. She is very satisfied. Thus, she had sweet dreams all night. The next day, Sha Wan-ning accompanied me for breakfast. By morning, the swelling on my face had gone down. It's almost healed. Brother Yichen, make sure to rest at home for a while. I'm going to the office. I frowned slightly. But your injury isn't healed yet. Are you going to the office so soon? Sha Wan-ning nodded. I have a few things I need to take care of. Seeing me looking down and silent, Sha Wan-ning smiled slightly. I'll come back tonight to have dinner with you. 1. I glanced at her and said, the first flight costs 100,000. A smile is worth 100,000. I said it casually. Unexpectedly, Sha Wan-ning immediately took out her phone. I only saw her long fingers quickly tapping a few times. My phone then received a notification sound. Picking up my phone, I saw $1 million credited. This spendthrift woman really has a big hand. She casually gave me $1 million. I was a bit shocked and called out to her. Sha Wan-ning. She looked up at me. Does Brother Yichen think it's too little? After saying that, she picked up her phone again. She was preparing to transfer another 10 million to me. It seems that 1 million is indeed a bit too little. She hadn't thought it through. I quickly grabbed her phone. What are you transferring so much money to me for? I have my own money. Actually, I've secretly been running a company. From a small company with just a few dozen people at the start. It has slowly grown to over 1,000 people now. Lu Yun-tien and the others have no idea. I've handed over all daily affairs of the company to others who are specifically responsible. People outside have no idea that I am the real owner of the company. At first, I was afraid the company wouldn't do well. So I handled everything secretly. Later, I didn't expect it to get better and better. I thought it would be more troublesome if more people knew. So I continued to hide it. The earnings are certainly still a bit behind Sha's group. However, the potential is definitely not small at all. In Sha Wanning's eyes, I just don't want to spend her money. She asked me with a hint of frustration. Do you not want to use my money? Are you still unsure about whether you want to be with me for a long time? The easily overthinking Sha Wan-ning started to surface again. I smiled helplessly. I reached out to touch her head. What are you overthinking again? I was just joking. I have enough money. Sha Wan-ning pouted and said. Then you should take this black card. I know this black card is among the few people who have it nationwide. Now, Sha Wan-ning directly gave it to me. I was touched inside. I didn't want to make Sha Wan-ning unhappy. I'm not someone who hesitates either. Accepting the money can make her happy. This is such a good thing. Of course, it's something I want. I escorted Sha Wan-ning to the door. I reached out my hands to hold her face and kissed her. Then I smiled at her. I'm rewarding you with a work kiss. Is there a work kiss? Wouldn't there be a goodbye kiss after work? Before even leaving the house, Sha Wan-ning was already starting to look forward to the moment of coming home after work. Not long after Sha Wan-ning left, I received a call. Looking at the caller ID, I frowned slightly. I pressed the answer button and asked in a low voice. What is it? Luo Yushan sounded a bit anxious on the other end. Wrong da. Someone is offering a high price to steal that important batch of goods from us. I then asked. Have you found out who they are? Luo Yushan felt she wasn't doing her job well, and couldn't trace any information about the other party. responding with a hint of frustration. The other side operates very secretly, leaving no traces at all. I gave a light hum in response. Let me discuss it at the company. Hearing my words, Luo Yushan sighed in relief. Whenever there is a major issue at the company, as long as I step in, it can basically be resolved. She admired this 20-year-old guy from the bottom of her heart. Young but with a keen business mind. Makes decisions without hesitation. After hanging up, I put on my hat and mask and immediately went out. Quickly got myself ready. Drove the car to rush to the company. On the way, I thought about this time in my past life. It seemed the company had issues as well. It's just that at that time, I was only thinking about being close with Su Qian, which led me to not handle the matter in time. Although the company is usually managed by Luo Yushan, ever since we failed to secure this batch of goods, the company suffered a huge blow. It gradually went downhill. I slowly tightened my grip on the steering wheel. In this life, I must not let this happen again. I won't let the hard work I put in destroy the Jingzha I painstakingly raised. On the other side, in the office of the Shaw Group, Wen Chao was reporting work to Shaw Wan Ning. Shaw Box. We have already raised the price to compete for that batch of goods, but the other side is also fighting hard. So far, we haven't succeeded. Moreover, the other side has used a lot of resources. They want to uncover our identities. Shaw Wan Ning pondered for a moment and said, have they found out? Wen Chao shook her head proudly and replied, we have kept it all very clean. Not a single useful piece of information has leaked out. It's clear that the other side has put in a lot of effort this time. They want to obtain this batch of goods. Once we succeed, their company should be close to bankruptcy. Now we just need your final decision. Should we continue to increase our bid? Shaw Wan Ning replied while flipping through the other project contracts in her hands. Let them go bankrupt. We must seize it at all costs. Safety is not a concern. Let's outspend them. This batch of goods is crucial for the company's subsequent growth and has significant implications. Although we are not competing with the other side for this batch of goods as desperately as that company. But no merchant would give up on products that are profitable for them. As I just arrived at the office, Luo Yushan started reporting the current situation of that batch of goods. Hearing this, I angrily slammed my hand on the table. It's one thing for them to blatantly steal from me, but they even directly threatened to make me go bankrupt. I couldn't bear it any longer and couldn't back down. Luckily, Shaw Wan Ning had just given me a lot of money in the morning, which came in handy. I could use it for an emergency. I will do everything I can to secure this batch of goods. They raise the price, we raise it too. No need to worry about the money. But no matter how much I raise the price here, the other side raises their price by the same amount. After several rounds of competition, it has completely exceeded the original budget for this batch of goods. Luo Yushan asked anxiously, if this continues, even if we secure this batch of goods, we will only incur losses. I thought carefully with a serious expression. I also knew that it had already far exceeded the value that this batch of goods could bring to the company. But without this batch of goods, the company's development will be hopeless. And I spent Shaw Wanning's money. I know the Shaw family is very wealthy, but I can't keep grinding like this. I sighed. I said to Luo Yushan with a touch of fatigue, let's leave it at that for now. I'll think of another way. Luo Yushan was a bit reluctant. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something more, but in the end, she gave up. Not a single word came out. I really couldn't think of a better way at the moment. In the evening when Shaw Wan Ning got off work and went home, I had arrived home earlier than her. As soon as she entered, she saw me quietly sitting on the sofa lost in thought. Shaw Wan Ning was looking forward to my goodbye kiss. I deliberately made some noise to let me know she was back, but I didn't know what I was thinking especially seriously. She walked over and sat down beside me, her voice a bit melancholic. What is Brother Yichin thinking about? It was at this moment that I snapped back to reality. I forced a smile and looked at Shaw Wan Ning. Wan Ning, you're back. I felt like I looked listless. Shaw Wan Ning secretly decided she would come back earlier in the future. She couldn't make me wait too long. During dinner, Shaw Wan Ning noticed that I was still distracted. She was a bit worried about my unusual behavior. Brother Yichin, is the food not to your taste today? No, it's really delicious. I heard Shaw Wan Ning talking to me. I snapped back to reality and hurriedly dug into my bowl of rice. I finished it in a few bites. I'll go upstairs to take a shower first. Shaw Wan Ning watched my figure as I went upstairs. Her eyes were filled with curiosity and confusion. If she can't figure it out, she might as well be an elementary school student. But she didn't know what it was about. She glanced at the dishes in front of her and muttered softly, you promised to eat with me. You hardly ate anything before leaving. Shaw Wan Ning has lost her appetite too. She put down her chopsticks and called the butler, asking in a low voice, did someone do something today that made Lu Yichin unhappy? The butler hurriedly shook his head and replied, no, miss. Mr. Lu seems to have gone out. He came back a bit unhappy. Shaw Wan Ning furrowed her brows and asked, Yichin. Suddenly, she felt very incompetent. She felt a bit regretful inside. He didn't even know I went out. The main thing is that he went out and returned unhappy. She also didn't understand the reason for his unhappiness. She should find 2 people to specifically attend to him. That way, she could know what happened at any time. Shaw Wan Ning stood up and walked towards the bedroom. By the time she finished washing and returned to the room, she saw that I was already lying on the bed. Suddenly, Shaw Wan Ning spoke up and asked, do you have something to tell me? My body stiffened. Why did Wan Ning suddenly ask me like this? Could it be that she found out about my company? If I still hide it from her now, Wan Ning would definitely be very angry. I crawled out of bed and sat up. I have a company, but I've encountered some problems recently. I briefly explained the situation. Wanning's heart skipped a beat. A bad premonition surged in her heart. This can't be true. The batch of goods she snatched is from Lu Yichen's company. With this suspicion, Wan Ning was completely stunned. After I finished speaking, I looked at Wanning's reaction. I thought she was also mad for me. I will figure out a way to handle this matter. Wan Ning. You don't have to worry. Wanning's mouth twitched a little stiffly. They left. Lu Yichen, what did you say your company's name is? Alliance. I casually said those two words. Let Sha Wanning's heart that was already at her throat instantly fall into the abyss. It seems that the batch of goods she took today also has a connection to the other company. If it's Lu Yichen's company, he would find out that I was competing with him for the goods. I might be finished. She even threatened to bankrupt Lu Yichen's company. Sha Wan Ning pulled me back into the quilt and lay down comfortably. She stretched out her delicate arms and hugged my waist. Let's sleep first. Let's think about these things tomorrow. Maybe everything will get better tomorrow. I felt secure sleeping with Sha Wan Ning in my arms. I didn't think about those troubling matters anymore. Soon, I felt drowsy and fell asleep. Sha Wan Ning watched me fall asleep. She gently took my hand off her waist. Then, she carefully pulled herself away. She tiptoed out of the room. The study door was gently ajar. Sha Wan Ning immediately took out her phone to call Wen Chao. Soon, the call was connected. Sha Wan Ning asked with 1% hope. What is the name of the company that competed with us for that batch of goods? Jing Sha. Wen Chao answered truthfully. When Sha Wan Ning heard this name from Wen Chao again, she felt like she was cracking apart. She was done for. She really got in trouble with Lu Yichen. Quickly return that batch of goods. Send it back to Jing Sha for free. Wen Chao couldn't believe it. Sha he. Are you serious? She felt like she must have misheard. That batch of goods was hard to snatch away, after all. Now she's being asked to send it back for free. She suspected she was dreaming. Otherwise, Sha Wan Ning must not have woken up. She must be delirious to say such things. Jing Sha is Lu Yichen's company. I only found out about this today as well. Upon hearing Sha Wan Ning say that, Wen Chao instantly understood. After silently mourning for Sha Wan Ning for 2 minutes, she responded. Okay, I'll take care of it as soon as possible. Sha Wan Ning anxiously advised. Be sure to conceal your identity well. No one is allowed to mention this batch of goods again in the future. After hanging up, Sha Wan Ning let out a slight sigh of relief. She turned around, preparing to head back to her bedroom. However, as she turned back, she saw me leaning against the door with my arms crossed. I stood there, watching her with a half smile. Sha Wan Ning was so scared that she retreated halfway. She was engulfed in tension from head to toe. I took in her reaction completely. Brother Yichen. When did you arrive? Sha Wanning's guilty mind left her tongue-tied. Did you hear everything just now? I maintained that position, and asked with some confusion. What did I hear? I just wanted to remind you to rest early. After saying that, I turned around and went back to the bed in my room. No wonder I couldn't find out who was on the other side. It turned out to be Sha Wan Ning, using Sha Wanning's money to fight her for things. Just thinking about it makes me laugh. It's just that I never told her about the company matters. That's why she would do such things. But Sha Wan Ning actually dared to say she would bankrupt my company. It seems I need to give her a little punishment. When Sha Wan Ning saw me turn around and leave, her heart skipped a beat. She quickly followed behind me. Seeing me sitting on the bed with my back to her, she walked around so I could see her. Yichen brother, I'm sorry. I truly didn't know at first that it was your company. Otherwise, I definitely wouldn't have said such things. I wouldn't have fought you for that batch of goods either. After saying that, Sha Wan Ning wanted to kiss me. It made me mad. Unexpectedly, I covered her approaching lips with my hand. Don't let her kiss. Sha Wan Ning said a little aggrieved. Brother Yichen, you said that I could kiss you anytime I wanted. I can kiss you anytime. I glanced at her and said, Zhang, no kisses starting now. This is your punishment. Can we change the punishment? Isn't this punishment a bit too severe? Sha Wan Ning wanted to bargain, but she didn't dare to offend me again. I looked at Sha Wanning's appearance, like a little wife who has been wronged. Anyone who didn't know would think she had suffered a great injustice. I was holding back a laugh as I moved closer to Sha Wan Ning. I pecked her forehead once. Then I looked away and didn't look at her, as if it wasn't me who just kissed her. Sha Wan Ning was kissed by me. Her eyes immediately became bright. Her face suddenly lit up with joy. Brother Yichen, didn't you say? I interrupted her. Seriously talking nonsense. I just said you can't kiss the tax. I never said I couldn't kiss you. I found it amusing to watch Sha Wanning's reaction. How can this woman be so easily satisfied? I just gave her a kiss, and she can ask like that. I couldn't bear to keep teasing her. I gently patted her head and said, hurry up and sleep. Sha Wan Ning happily closed her eyes. She soon fell into a dream. The next morning, I was woken up by a ringing sound. I saw someone next to me. Feel the temperature. They should have left a while ago. I answered. A very excited voice came from the other end. Lu Nian. I moved the phone a bit away. Lu Yushan. I'm doing just fine. Wealth. Lu Yushan realized she was indeed too excited. She lowered her voice a bit shyly. I'm too excited. That batch of goods. Speaking of this matter, Lu Yushan couldn't help herself. The voice got a bit louder. I quickly covered my mouth. I lowered my voice and spoke again. Lu He. That batch of goods has arrived. The other side actually gave it to us for free. I must not be dreaming, right? I don't feel surprised at all. I simply replied to her with one word. Luo Yushan still doesn't know what happened in between. I just felt my reaction was too calm. As expected of her leader, It's about keeping your composure. My admiration for her has reached another level. I continued to remind her again. Accept it when it's delivered and make good use of its value. Don't let down their friendship. Luo Yushan nodded. She understood that I meant to build a good relationship with the Shaw group. After hanging up the phone, I saw a message from my best friend Lu Yu. How come there was no news the whole summer? Have you forgotten your brothers because you got a woman? I replied with an awkward smile. Then I'll treat you to lunch. Lu Yu replied with an okay emoji in seconds. The accompanying text feels a lot. After washing up, I took the car keys and left the Shaw family villa. I drove towards Lu Yu's house. Just as I left, two people followed me in another car. I parked my car downstairs at Lu Yu's house. I was just about to call and say I had arrived, when I saw Lu Yu walking out from inside. Lu Yu spotted my car at a glance. He quickly ran in front of my car. He opened the passenger door. Long time no see. I glanced at him and started the engine. Didn't we see each other a few days ago? You still dare to say it was just a few days ago? It's been more than a month already. Come clean. Is there something going on? I played dumb. I pretended not to understand what Lu Yu meant. What's going on? Lu Yu was anxious to know. Suddenly, he thought of Su Qian. His expression instantly fell. He asked seriously. You won't. You aren't dating some gold digger, are you? Just then, the traffic light ahead turned red. I heard Lu Yu's words. I slammed on the brakes. What are you talking about? How could I possibly be with her? Mentioning her fills my eyes with hatred. Lu Yu felt relieved when he heard me say that. Isn't it a bit better? Why did Lu Yichen suddenly become like this? I would never react like this when mentioning Su Qian before. Instead, my eyes and heart were full of her. I glanced at Lu Yu and smiled, knowing that he was very worried about me. I saw the green light come on and continued driving towards my destination. I need to tell you something. I guess you will be even more scared. Go ahead and say it. I want to hear what could be more frightening than this. I said calmly. I'm together with Sha Wan Ning now. Lu Yu sat up straight in surprise. What? He doubted if he had misheard. I calmly repeated it again. Sha Wan Ning. Lu Yu asked in a daze. Is it that Sha Wan Ning? I smiled with a hint of helplessness. I gave Lu Yu an eye roll. How many Sha Wan Nings could there be here? Besides, I live with him now. I kept talking. Lu Yu was completely stunned by what he heard. How could so many things happen in just a month? He found it hard to process everything that had happened. Didn't you used to say she never smiles? She emanates a, do not disturb, vibe. She radiates a, do not disturb, aura. She said she had come to find you a few times to get close to you. You avoided her at all costs. So how did you suddenly end up living together? You weren't forced by her, were you? Other than that, Lu Yu seriously couldn't think of any other reason. I couldn't help but laugh. If I were being forced, would I still be here now? Lu Yu nodded thoughtfully. Then you. I interrupted his unfinished sentence. Of course, I like her. I want to be with her. Lu Yu is still very curious. I have fallen in love. She saved your life. I answered seriously. Yes, she saved my life in her previous life. She even risked her own life for it. Lu Bao thinks I'm talking nonsense. Just ignore me. But compared to that gold digger Su Qian, Sha Wan Ning is so much stronger. Soon we arrived at our destination. Lu Yu and I arrived at the reserved restaurant. As soon as we sat down, someone brought the menu. Lu Yu flipped it open and glanced at it. As expected, every dish is not cheap. I was afraid Lu Yu wouldn't want to say anything. I'm going to the bathroom. You can just look and order whatever you want first. Today, we'll order whatever we feel like eating. Lu Yu was flipping through the menu. He thought he was about to drool. He wanted to eat everything he saw. But if he orders too much. Okay, I understand. You should go quickly. After I come back from the bathroom, 2 steps away from our seats, I saw the 2 people I disliked the most walk into the restaurant. Su Qian and Lu Jinian were sitting very close to each other. They were almost hanging onto each other. They were chatting and laughing about something. What bad luck. It's hard to believe I ran into them while trying to have a meal. Back at the table, Lu Yu had chosen 2 dishes and saw that I was back. He sat next to me with the menu and said, I chose these 2 dishes. Quickly see if you want anything else. Okay. Just as I was about to sit up straight, I heard a very loud voice coming over. Brother, what are you doing here for a meal? I turned my head to look. I saw Lu Jinian walking towards us. Su Qian was following behind. I coldly said, you can come. But I can't? Lu Jinian smiled and replied, that's not what I meant. I'm just happy. I didn't expect to run into you here. Since you left home. I'm not used to it. I opened my mouth, ready to speak. Lu Yu, standing nearby, suddenly snorted. He started to speak. You're not used to it. Then why don't you just move out? Hearing Lu Yu's words, I looked down, trying not to laugh. I couldn't hold it in and laughed out loud. My shoulders were shaking slightly from laughter. Lu Yu is not one to hold back his words. Lu Yu has disliked Lu Jinian for a long time. In the past, any hint of anger he showed was all out of concern for me. Now, I also don't like Lu Jinian. Then he doesn't need to be polite. Lu Jinian was at a loss for words in response to Lu Yu's comment. He extended his hand, angrily pointing at Lu Yu. You are pointing with your hand. Lu Yu didn't give him a chance to continue. He shot a glance at Lu Jinian, pointing at her hand. Mr. Li, didn't your mother ever tell you that it's very rude to point at people? You call him Mr. Nan. Lu Jinian hates it when people use his surname. He has changed his last name to Lu, to his original surname. Lu Yu let out a cold laugh. Young Master Tian. So you don't know what your original surname is anymore? Do whatever you need to do. Just go tight. Don't flaunt in front of us. After Lu Yu finished speaking, he continued to see what I was eating, ignoring Lu Jinian now. Lu Jinian was so angry he clenched his teeth, noticing Su Xin standing behind. Don't you often mention wanting to meet my brother? My brother is right here now. If you want to say something, just say it. After saying that, she pushed her forward a bit, gave Su Qian a signal to let her approach me actively. Su Qian saw me but didn't lift her head, smiling broadly. She said in a flattering tone, bending down. Yes, Yichen. Long time no see. Since we have met today, let's have a meal together. I pretended I hadn't seen her just now. She lifted her head and pretended to be surprised. What are you doing here? I didn't even notice you were here. Why do you always show up where I am? It feels like I can see you everywhere. I asked on purpose. I wanted to see how she would respond. Su Qian probably anticipated my question. Her smiling face stiffened for a moment. Then she glanced at Lu Jinian. I just happen to have something to handle over here. Lu Jinian quickly chimed in. Yes. I ran into Sister Li Qian doing some work here on the way, so I suggested we have a meal together. Since we've bumped into each other, brother, you don't mind if we join, right? Su Qian smiled and said, it's been a while. I'll treat you today. Yichen, how about you join us for a meal? I rolled my eyes in my mind. I found these two really annoying. An impatient look slowly crept onto my face. Who wants to have dinner with you too? The sight of the two faces is putting me off my appetite. I just opened my mouth to refuse. Lu Yu reached out and pulled me at the table. I looked at Lu Yu with a hint of confusion. What do you mean? Lu Yu still wants to have dinner with those two, doesn't he? Isn't he usually the one who dislikes these two the most? Lu Yu winked at me. He slightly nodded as a signal to get me to agree to have dinner together. There was a hint of surprise in my eyes. I have no idea what Lu Yu is up to. I can only go along with him. I glanced at Lu Jinian and Su Qian. I spoke coldly, with a tone of detachment. Go back. Hearing that I agreed, the two hurriedly got down. Su Qian sat across from me. Lu Jinian and Lu Yu sat facing each other. Su Qian sat across from me, looking at me closely, silently comparing me with Lu Jinian in my heart. I found that whether it was about me or Lu Jinian, the appearance and family background are much better. Besides, I am still a biological child of the Lu family no matter what. Although Lu Jinian is favored by Lu Yuntian. After all, he is just a born illegitimate child. The upper class circles value family background the most. The more Su Qian thinks, the more she feels she must reel me in. She is very confident. With her methods and looks, a woman chasing a man is like a thin veil between them. Capturing him will be a piece of cake. Didn't Lu Jinian get taken down by her long ago? I don't believe Lu Yichen won't be moved. Yichen, you go ahead and order. Don't be polite with me. Order whatever you want. Su Qing spoke up warmly. She is very clear about it. No matter how to pursue it, taking the first step is essential. I passed the menu to Lu Yu. Go ahead and order. Lu Yu has been waiting for this moment. He rubbed his hands together in excitement. He picked up the menu without hesitation. He told the waiter what he wanted to eat. This looks pretty good. I'll have a portion of this too. After pointing to who knows how many dishes, they finally finished ordering and closed the menu. That should be enough. Let's go with this for now. If it's not enough, we can order more. Qian quietly sighed. She really couldn't help but want to say something. Ordering so many, we won't be able to finish it. I wonder what dishes Lu Yu ordered. However, the tea here is quite expensive. She felt a bit restless. I wonder if this will cover. If my allowance will be enough to settle the bill later. The waiter was diligently recording each dish ordered. After watching Lu Yu finish ordering, he followed the procedure and asked, okay, may I ask if you would like any dessert after the meal? Hearing the waiter's words, Su Qian almost stood up and yelled no. Gritting her teeth, she hoped Lu Yu would refuse. She only perked up her ears to listen. She wanted to hear that lovely, no, come out. But how could Lu Yu let her have her way? He glanced at Su Qian's reaction and slightly curled his lips. With a hint of sarcasm, she smiled and asked the waiter, do you have any small desserts to recommend? Recently, we launched a new red velvet dessert. It has received quite a good response. Would you like to try it? Lu Zong too. Lu Yu nodded in agreement. Then give us each a portion. Upon hearing Lu Yu's response, Su Qian felt her heart bleeding. Unable to hold back, she quickly said, I don't need dessert. I don't like sweet things. After saying that, she looked at me and smiled. She covered her embarrassment with a smile. Saving some is just a snack. At this moment, she felt a bit regretful. Regretting having said so boldly to treat me to a meal. And bringing along Lu Yu. She seriously suspected that Lu Yu was deliberately making fun of her. Hearing that she was treating, he purposely ordered so much tea. The dishes came up quickly. A variety of dishes filled a large table. Lu Yu eagerly picked up his chopsticks, ready to enjoy the feast. He wants to see why these dishes are so expensive. If he has to eat it himself, he definitely wouldn't order it. However, when it's a girl's treat, it's different. A girl paying the bill won't let food go to waste. Just thinking about Lu Yu makes these dishes even more appealing. Lu Jinian also thinks this table full of dishes is a bit much. It's obvious that Lu Yu did this on purpose. We can't eat all four of them. Lu Yu heard Lu Jinian ask this. I think it's not too much at all. A table this big can't possibly shut you up. Lu Yu is being completely honest about life. Lu Jinian was left speechless by the rebuttal. Lu Yu didn't pay him any more attention. He continued to enjoy the whole table of dishes by himself. If it's delicious, he might let me try some too. Yichen, this one's good. You should try it. I picked it up and put it in my mouth. Not bad. Su Qian saw this and took the opportunity to show off. She was ready to tell me which dish was the best. Yichin this. Hasn't finished speaking. I didn't even look up when Su Qian coldly reminded me. No talking while eating or sleeping. Su Qian's face instantly darkened when I said that. She felt embarrassed. Is that saying she has no manners? I kept my head down and continued eating. It didn't affect my appetite at all that someone I disliked was sitting in front of me. You can't waste good food. I would share tasty food with Lu Yu. We chatted while eating. The atmosphere was fantastic. In contrast, Lu Jinian and Su Xin could only eat in silence. Listening to the laughter coming from Lu Yu and me, they were filled with resentment inside. What happened to no talking while eating or sleeping? But it was just me saying things to shut them up. Lu Jinian was even more indignant inside. He glanced at Su Qian next to him and me sitting across from her. Suddenly, a thought flashed in his mind. His eyes were filled with a calculating glint. While everyone was not paying attention, Lu Jinian secretly took out his phone and placed it on the table's edge. The camera was aimed at Su Qian and me. He found the right angle and quickly pressed the photo button. Lu Jinian looked at the two people in the photo. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but rise in satisfaction. From the photo, it only showed Su Qian and me having dinner. Just in time, Su Qian's gaze was directed at me across the table. At that moment, Lu Yu didn't know what to say to me. I had said something funny. I smiled brightly. Anyone who looked at this photo would think we were on a date. He found Sha Wan Ning among his friends. He selected that photo and pressed the send button. After Lu Jinian saw it was sent, a cold smirk froze at the corner of his mouth. He looked up, becoming calm and composed again. He wore an air of nonchalance. He recalled Sha Wanning's call back then. He must have used some means to obtain it. During a previous incident, I was sick. Sha Wan Ning was very worried after hearing the news. She bought a bunch of medicine overnight and stood downstairs at my house. But at that time, I didn't see her. Only Lu Jinian knew the reason behind it. My not seeing Sha Wan Ning was due to his interference. At that time, I was sick and in a deep sleep. I had no idea that Sha Wan Ning had come to find me. Lu Jinian knew. But he would not let Sha Wan Ning meet me. At that time, it was still Lu Jinian. He walked step by step to Sha Wan Ning and said to her, "My brother doesn't want to see you. You should go back. Why don't we exchange numbers? I can update you on my brother's situation at any time, so you can be at ease." Sha Wan Ning agreed. After they exchanged numbers. Initially, Lu Jinian did indeed occasionally report my health status to Sha Wan Ning. Sha Wan Ning would reply to him and even take the initiative to ask him. After I recover my health, he will message Sha Wan Ning again. But he has never received a single reply. Not even a was given to him. Lu Jinian felt very jealous inside. The first time he saw Sha Wan Ning, he immediately liked her. But in Sha Wanning's eyes, there's only Lu Yichin forever. Lu Jinian was not convinced in his heart. Since he cannot have her, then Lu Yichin cannot hope to have her either. So he used to speak ill of Sha Wan Ning in front of me. Rumors outside claimed how terrible she is. As a result, I actually believed this. I really made sure to give Sha Wan Ning no chance to get close. But even so, Sha Wan Ning still only had eyes for me. Lu Jinian had no chance at all. Then he looked at Su Jun beside him. If they weren't still on the same path, with a common goal, and he still held some value for him. After the class reunion when school starts, he would completely cut ties with this girl. The people at the table didn't notice Lu Jinian's small actions. Lu Yu and I continued to chat and eat as if nobody else was around. In the office of the president of the Sha Corporation, Sha Wan Ning heard the notification sound of her phone. She thought it was a message from me. With a heart full of joy, she quickly picked up her phone. But when she opened it, she saw it was a message from Lu Jinian. She had a slight bad feeling. She felt that the message from Lu Jinian wouldn't be anything good. Sha Wan Ning frowned slightly. Her lips pressed into a straight line. She looked. But in her heart, she felt it must be related to her. After hesitating for a moment, she clicked to open it. She saw the two people in the photo. Sha Wanning's heart sank. She felt as if her breath had stopped. Her eyes were tightly fixed on the photo. She gripped her phone tightly. Her fingertips had started to turn pale. Perhaps she didn't want to believe that the person in the photo was her. Sha Wan Ning used her slightly trembling fingers. Zoom in on the photo. After zooming in, I look at my phone, smiling happily. She loves to see me smile. Now, my smile stings her eyes. Because my smile isn't for myself, but for the woman sitting across from her. Sha Wanning's eyes redden. Her expression is extremely pained. Yichin still can't let go of that woman, can he? Then why has he been so good to her these days? Is all of this a lie? So what does he want now? Does he still think that woman named Su Qian is better? Does he want to be with her? Thinking of this, her illness starts to flare up again. This time it's worse than any previous episode.